I remember quite vividly two experiences that I'm going to share with you. Both of them were during Vision Quest. Now, Vision Quests are things that I do with my clients at, well, when Disneyland was open, we used to do them at Disneyland. We do them at Disneyland, Disney World, wherever it is that I can actually get into the experience element of what it is that people are actually all about. I use Disney because of the variety of experiences that we can actually have there, and because it's such a vivid and wonderful example of what experience is all about. These two experiences, though, were about individuals. I remember one of them, a little place that I use off of Main Street, where we were sitting, having a discussion, just my client, myself, and his wife, as we were talking about him, talking about his career, talking about his family, talking about everything that was going on in life. And really getting into the private part of his life. Now, we delved into the personal part as well, but we delved deeply into the private part. And I remember his reaction. His reaction was golden because he changed from that moment forward. Everything changed. I remember another incident, again at Disney. This time, I was in the Golden Horseshoe with this particular client, and same thing. We got to a very intimate part of the private experience, and there was a shift. Everything changed. When we truly understand what happens in the private experience, it alters everything else that goes on from that point forward. And for the last 30 years, I've been absolutely dedicated to helping people understand what's going on inside of them, because when they better understand what goes on inside of them, they can better serve others with everything that they have. Because what goes on inside of us is really between mental and spiritual. That's really all it is. Now, mental I'll break out into intellectual and emotional. And spiritual, for me personally, my spiritual balance, my spiritual root is based in God. I truly believe in God and in Jesus Christ. That for me provides that spiritual center. Now others have other beliefs, and we'll find out, right? We'll eventually know what all of those things are. But for me, for today, I am very much at peace with my understandings and my beliefs. How do we come about those? What do we do with those? What do we do with our intellect? What do we do with our emotions? What do we do with the spiritual sense? Those are all private things. Now, again, for me, I've had, at the time of this filming, I've been awake for many hours, okay? And it's already morning, and it's just beginning the work day for most people. But I've been awake for many hours. Why? My private experience happens first. So I got my physical in. I also had about an hour of spiritual learning, spiritual renewal, refreshing, because for me to keep that spiritual part absolutely centered, I have to work at it. I have to work at it every single day. So for me, there's already been scripture, there's already been prayer and study within that spiritual area of my life. I've also had 30 minutes of study in the intellectual area of my life, as well as the physical. Now, some of those happen at the same time, because that's the only way I can get everything in a day. For you, where do you go with that? Okay? How do you feed the intellectual part of your life? How do you feed the emotional part of your life? How do you feed the spiritual part of your life? Now, that whole element of emotion, that's a whole different segment, isn't it? Can be a very easy thing. It can be a very difficult thing. If you have too much emotion, it's problematic. If you have not enough emotion, it's problematic. Emotion is a very interesting creature to look at. But don't think for a moment the emotional part is separated from the intellectual part. Don't think for a moment the emotional part is separated from the spiritual part. Those elements work together. Intellectual, spiritual, emotional, all work together to create who we are on the inside, what it is that we're all about. And those things lead to the behaviors that we actually do. That's why those stories in Disneyland became so critical. Because as we align the private parts of our life, as we make the most of the private parts of our life, it allows us to make the most of every other part of our life. the personal part of our life goes better, the social part of our life goes better, and the professional part of our life goes better. Why? Because we truly understand that personal, private element of who we are. It creates an incredible private experience, which then can create an incredible personal experience, an incredible social experience, and a marvelous and wonderful and an excellent professional experience. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you on the next Primacy Podcast.